Welcome back to Adventures with Dice. I'm Rob and I'm your host for these videos. So, you picked up the starter set for Warhammer Fantasy. You played through the adventure. Maybe 2 adventures, maybe 3, who knows. Maybe you didn't pick up the starter set at all, you just wanted to dive into the full game. Either way, you're ready to move to the next step. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to move on from the starter set to Warhammer Fantasy Role-Play, the main rulebook. And this is a big rulebook. It's thick. I don't even know how big it is. Looks like about 200 or 350 page book. And you can see I've tabbed it all out. So this retails for $59.99, and then the last time I looked, you could get it on Amazon for 40 something. So not a bad deal, especially when you consider technically everything you need to run the game is in this book. Now, if you watched my video on the starter set, I do find the starter set to be fantastic, and I can see you using stuff from the starter set with this when you're playing the full game. But you don't have to have it. And they have a slew of other books out there. Tons of campaign books and books on different locations. And yeah, you can get those, and I would like to get those at some point. They are definitely on my wish list, which is linked in the description below. So if you'd like to help the channel out, that's a good way to do it. You can also like, share, subscribe these videos, and if you'd like early access to some of these videos, then become a member for $1 a month. I'm also going to be, at some point, I'm not going to do it with review videos, but I think I'm going to do some actual play videos that are going to be members only videos. My review videos, I'm going to keep them open to everybody, but I am going to start doing some actual play, solo play stuff that is going to be for members only. I just got to get it up there before I start pushing that. Warhammer Fantasy Role-Play is a great game for doing that. I mentioned before, Willoma's Cave has some fantastic videos on it. He even intermixes different systems, this and Dungeon World, in his season 2 of how to solo roleplay. Fantastic videos. But this lends itself really well to solo roleplay, as does Dragonbane, because when you're doing anything, whether it's attacking or trying to use a skill or whatever, you already have your target number on your character, and you're just trying to roll. Well, in these games, you're trying to roll below that number or below. So you're not relying on an emulator, a GM emulator, to generate any kind of difficulty for you, so on and so forth. So they're great for that, but they're also great for group play, which is mostly what I'm going to be doing with this. As I've stated before, my Tuesday group is going to be playing this at some point in the future. I'm already working on that game now because I tend to work on things well before we get to it. But in this video, we're going to take a look at what comes in the Warhammer Fantasy Role-Play core rulebook and see if it's something that you're interested in getting. There is a ton here to go over, and I'm not going to go into every rule and basically just teach you the game. It's percentile based, D100 percentile. You're trying to roll your number or lower to succeed at things. The book opens with a big, beautiful map of glorious Reichland. Little hard to see. It is gorgeous, but it's a lot to cover, and if you got old man eyes like I do, or old woman eyes like my wife does, it can be hard to read some of these names. But how cool is that? Well, I guess you would think it was cooler if I didn't have glare all over it. How about that? It's the only problem with these shiny pages. So let's go into, it has an introduction telling you what the book is, how to use it. And then this is kind of neat. You have several pages of this where they just have this beautiful art spread. And then you have a little bit like this one's talking about the borders of the glorious empire, and it's like a propaganda piece, like how secure everything is, and then there's always one over here that's more like the realistic view of the area they're talking about. But you got one there, one here. I love that artwork. That is just great. All the artwork is really good in my opinion. But you have several pages of that. That's fantastic. All right, and that's a cool inn. And then we have a letter that is written that describes several things, and it's helpful to you if you're new to the game to read this stuff, because it kind of, in a very in-game narrative way, explains the setting to you. It explains a lot of setting stuff. It explains, talks a little bit about gods and witches and the College of Magic and the ruinous powers. Nurgle. So that's a really interesting thing. And then we jump right into character creation. Now, character creation in Warhammer Fantasy Role-Play is phenomenal for a couple of reasons. You have a little more choice than you do in like OSR games. You have humans, halflings, dwarves, high elves, and wood elves to choose from. That's just in the core book. I know that the Lestria book adds some other stuff, like I think the lizard men or something. I don't have it, so I don't know. But anyway, you have your character creation summary steps. You have your species, and each one of the species gives you, like human Reichlanders, excuse me, gives you a description of what they're like, their opinions on the other races, dwarves, halflings, high elves, and wood elves. And then dwarves is the same way, and it talks about it has a lot of these optional rules, like animosity between the dwarves and the elves, and whether you want to use that in your game or not. But the option is there too. So we have that for each of the races, the high elves and the wood elves, the halflings. Bookmark. So one of the neat things that you can do in this is, yes, you can come here and just pick, well, I want to play a high elf. Okay, sure. But there's like 3 different places in here that they give you the option to roll randomly. Let me get a drink. And if you roll randomly and take the result, you get bonus XP that you can spend on the back end of character creation to beef your character up some more. I have created, I think, 4 or 5 characters now, just learning the system, and I've done all of them completely random and just taken whatever I got. But it's and it's a lot of fun to do it that way, honestly. And it takes a lot of the metagaming, power gaming out of it. But like your species table, it's a human-centric world, so you're going to have more chance of being human than anything else. So if you wanted to do the random roll on a D100, 1 through 90, you're a human. 91 to 94, you're a halfling. 95 to 98, you're a dwarf. 99, you're a high elf. Or if you roll a 100, you're a wood elf. They're very hard to come by, very rare is the idea behind that. Now, again, you don't have to do it that way. You can just pick your race and your career and everything if you want to. But I find the random character creation to be a ton of fun to go through. So we come over to class and career, and basically you have 8 classes, and I think it's 8 careers per each one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. So it's like, it's a ton. But like your academics cover apothecaries, engineers, lawyers, nuns, physicians, priests, scholars, and wizards. And you can roll randomly to determine. So if you already know you're a human, you roll D100, and then let's say you get a 45. So 45, come down here, you're a scout. You come down the human chart, 45 is a scout. If you were a dwarf and got a 45, then you would be a warden. And you can, if you choose to accept that, then you get the bonus XP as well. And each of these is detailed later on. Your attributes can be done the same way. You can do them randomly and gain extra XP, or you can choose them and not gain the extra XP. But it has a section that describes what they are, talks about skills and talents, trappings, which is a different terminology than you find in a lot of D&D games. Your trappings is like your equipment. It's like your starting equipment that you get. You get some your racial skills, and then you'll get more skills to choose from your career. But your trappings, it tells you what kind of gear you start with, basically. And then you add detail, and it has a thing on the names for Reichlanders, dwarven names, elven name. It actually has an elven name generator in here. Physical details, you do some rolls on that for your age, hair color, eye color, all of that stuff to put your character together. And then if you're playing with a group, you're going to put do some of your party ambitions. What is your party trying to do? What are they after? Put all that together. That's bringing your character to life. And then it has a section in here on advancement, and this kind of teaches you how to spend your XP to gain advancements and move through your career path. So let's see, that's advancement. Then there's a breakdown of the character sheet explaining pretty much everything I just went over and where to find it. Then we get into class and careers, and then your class and career levels, XP cost, and status for your characters. How wealthy are they? How well known are they? How are they thought of in general society? And then we have a very large section which goes through each of the careers, and it has the career path. So you start at brass, then go to silver, then go to gold. And you have, like, the apothecary starts out an apprentice. It tells you what skills you have to choose from there, talents, trappings that you pick up. And then you go from apothecary's apprentice to an apothecary to a master apothecary to an apothecary general. And you can also abandon a career and move into another career by spending XP to do it during the game. And it explains to you how to do that. But each one of these is labeled like that. Now, I've heard other people make this complaint, and I agree it can be a little off-putting that all the careers are not just listed alphabetically through here. They're listed alphabetically within each bracket. So like all of the academics, the apothecary, the engineer, the lawyer, the nun, the physician, these are all listed within academics. And then we go from academics to burghers, and that's when you have your agitators, beggars, and it just keeps going like that. And it does each of the class, and it has all the careers for that class in it. So you kind of have to know which class you're going to in order to find the information you need. Which tabs are helpful, or PDF. If you have the PDF, you can just open it up. So that's peasants, rogues, warriors. We get rangers, river folk, then rogues, then warriors. There's like 64, I think, different class career options in here. All right, so then we talked about skills and talents earlier, but we have a chapter on skills and talents that it describes them in detail, how they work, how you get them, the master skill list, and it goes through and explains each of the skills, whether it is a basic skill or an advanced skill, and what that means, and whether it's a regular skill or a grouped skill. Like grouped would be like knowledge. You wouldn't have just knowledge as a skill. You would have knowledge of, whatever, and knowledge would be different skills grouped together. So it goes through all the skills like that. Then we get into talents. talents are kind of like, for you D&D guys and gals, that's kind of like your feats basically. But it's also where you gain the ability to like cast magic and so on and so forth. And all of your talents are listed in here. And then we get, after talents, we go straight to the rules section. And it tells you a lot of the stuff that you are, if you play through the basic box set, you already learned the basics of how to do test, how to do oppose test, and so on and so forth. And again, sprinkled throughout here, you've got tons of these optional rules: test above 100, auto successes, the way success levels work, which is how well you did, not just did you pass or did you fail, but how well did you pass or how bad did you fail something. So all of that is explained in the rules section. And then we come to conditions, and it's just what it sounds like, you know: bleeding, blinded, broken, deafened, entangled, fatigued, poisoned, prone, stunned, surprised, unconscious. And then we get into fate and resilience, which I probably could use a whole video on itself. It's not as complicated as it seems. It basically gives you a chance to re-roll or spend a point to save your character from an untimely demise. We have a section on injury and how injury works, the critical tables, and you have different ones. You have the head critical, the arm critical, let's see, body criticals, leg criticals. I mean, these are just nasty tables. I don't think there's anything good on them. You have, you know, a section detailing what happens when you have broken bones, when you have torn muscles, amputated parts, hands, noses, teeth, all that. You have a section on healing and how it works. Other damage that you can take, like drowning and suffocation, exposure to the elements, thirst and starvation. And then we get into corruption, and there's a lot of things in the old world that can corrupt you, and the ruinous powers are always looking to do that. Nurgle got me a long time ago. But it also has tables for when you start gaining corruption, how you are physically and mentally affected by that. You got to be careful with corruption because it'll ruin your character. We have a section on disease and infections. And it even has a thing on creating your own diseases, which is kind of neat. And this is really cool. A lot of games don't do this, but I found this to be really neat. This is a between adventures section, because you don't generally have your characters just go from adventure to adventure to adventure. They have downtime, sometimes months or years between adventures that they go on in books that you read. So this is kind of neat because it gives you something to do, to kind of roll on and see what happens and have some kind of event between the adventures that you're playing. And that's a neat little addition. Like I said, a lot of games don't do that, but I think it's cool that it's in here. I like having that, you know, something special can happen between the two adventures you just played. So our next section, we have a section on religion and belief. It talks about the gods of the empire, talks about the chaos gods, talks about the cults, and then it goes into a detailed description of the different cults, like cult of Manon, god of the sea, cult of Mor, the god of death, and it keeps going. Cult of Sigmar, the god of the empire, cult of Ulrich. You have dwarven ancestor gods, elven gods. They talk about that in here. Primary dwarf gods, primary elven gods, primary halfling gods. Those are all listed. The main ones are listed here, and you can always add in your own if you wanted to. And then it has a section on the chaos gods. The Wrath of the Gods table, blessings from the cult, divine manifestations. These are kind of like your cleric spells, but they're blessings and miracles. And let's see, that's all miracles there. And then we come into the section on magic, and it has a thing that goes into detail describing what the winds of magic are and how the 8 lores are broken up, and a description of each of the 8 lores. It also talks about elven magic, dark magic, warp stones, other lores like hedgecraft and witchcraft. And then we get into the magic rules, where You know, you have second sight, you can cast spells, how the casting test works, and the miscast table. You have a minor and a major miscast table, so, you know, bad stuff can happen when you mess up. Magic in grimdark games is supposed to be dangerous, and it wholeheartedly is here. We have challenging test. Then we have the spell list and the wheel that breaks down the different lores of magic. And we start with our petty spells, and then it goes into arcane spells and colored magic, and it goes on for a while before we get to the GM section, which also has the Visitor's Guide to Reikland. And this kind of gives you some background detail, which is good to have, especially if you didn't get the starter box, because this gives you kind of a breakdown of the Reikland and you know, the area your characters are going to be playing in, basically. Grimdark Forest, the Reich, rivers, canals, and lakes. I mean, it's just there's a lot of information in here, and then you have a pretty extensive timeline of Reikland as well. And that's a nice little addition, because a lot of rule books don't come with a setting built in. This comes with a setting built in, obviously, because it's Warhammer. But you have a section on the politics of Reikland, settlements, and let's see, let's go on back here. Then you have the consumer's guide, and if you remember my last video, I talked about possibly doing a video to explain the monetary system, because it's a little different than a lot of your D&D style games, and because of the way it looks like it's really confusing. But I could do a video, and again, if you want me to, put it in the comments below, that I can explain it, and once you get the explanation and that it's not fractions you're looking at, these are just symbols, it all makes a lot more sense. But in the starter set, there's that nice little going shopping thing that has, you know, the chart for stuff they can buy. That's fantastic if you need something on the fly. This is if you need something in depth. It goes all into how the money works, people counterfeiting money, clipping money. Then you have the going to market. It tells you how bargaining and trading works. So trying to barter and get a better deal on something. Item qualities, encumbrance, what happens when you're overburdened. Then you have weapons, and I mean, look at it. Look at that list of weapons. That's a lot. That's just melee weapons, and this is ranged weapons over here. And then we have ammunition for the ranged weapons. Again, options for weapon length and infighting, weapon ranges. And it doesn't stop with just weapons. We have lots of armor to look at, big armor chart. There's options for quick armor, packs and containers, right? Like backpacks, barrels, casks, all kind of stuff. Then we have clothing and accessories, food and drink and lodging, tools and kits, books and documents, trade tools and workshops, animals and vehicles, drugs and poison, herbs and draughts, or as my grandfather would say, herbs and draughts. Prosthetics, miscellaneous trappings. Then you have a section on hirelings, like hiring henchmen. And then we come to a bestiary that is not massive, but it will suffice. It does the job. You have some basic stats for peoples of Reikland: humans, dwarves, halflings, elves, and this can be high or wood elf. But then we have ogres. We have Black Bella, the human brigand, Poldankius, human witch. And then we have the beast of Reikland. We have bears, boars, dogs, giant rats, giant spiders, horses, pigeons. Hope I never have to fight a pigeon. Snakes. Fought one of those in the yard the other day. We have wolves. We have basilisk. And bog octopus, cave squigs, demogryphs, dragons, fane beast, Fmir, which To my knowledge, these first appeared in Hero Quest back in the day, and I've loved them ever since. I got a ton of them printed out, and I used them in another game that wasn't this, but now that we're going to be playing this, I'm definitely going to use some Vermeer in there because I got a bunch of Vermeer models. We have giants, we have griffins, hippogriffs, hydras, Jebbersliths, manticores, pegasi, trolls. I got some of those too. Trolls are nasty and look just like that. Wyverns. Then you have the greenskin horde. You have the orcs, goblins, snotlings. Then we have the restless dead, skeletons, zombies, dire wolves, crypt ghouls, volgoths, Karn wraiths, tomb banshees, vampires, ghosts. And then we have the slaves of darkness. We have beast men, children of chaos, ungors, minotaurs, bray shamans. We have cultists, which are mutated, and regular cultists. Chaos warriors. Look at that beautiful Nurgle right there. Nurgle warrior. Demons of the gibbering host. You have bloodletters of Khorne, demonettes of Slaanesh, demon princes, clan rats, storm vermin, rat ogres. And then you have a section on creature traits back here, and because a lot of them will have, their traits listed under their stats, and there are a lot of traits. So you will, until you get used to running one type of them, you will be doing some flipping back and forth there. But once you get used to running them, it's not a big deal. And then the book ends with the character sheet, very extensive index, and that same map we have from the front. My only complaint here really is that's the only image of a warrior we got from Nurgle. I really wish we had like they did the bloodletters and demonettes of Slaanesh. I wish we had something like that for Nurgle, but Nurgle doesn't get the appropriate amount of love, in my opinion, from most of these games. But that's okay. We have the basics of it, so I can fit them in there. And that is the book. That is Warhammer Fantasy Role-Play. I can probably do some more videos on this, especially after we start playing it, and break down different sections and what I think of them. Like I said, the only complaint I've ever really heard is the careers not being in complete alphabetical order all the way through, and I've heard people complain about the monetary system. They find it confusing. And I'll admit, when I first looked at it, and it may not be confusing to you if you played first, second, third edition or whatever, but it was confusing to me when I looked at it. I was like, I don't know what that means. That doesn't make sense. So I had to read it several times, and after reading it several times and really looking at it, I was like, oh, okay. There was just a point where it clicked and I got it, So being as I got it, I can, show other people if they're having any questions with it. But I'm probably going to come back real soon and do a look at the GM screen for this game. And after that, I don't know, because I don't have any of the other books yet, so we'll just have to see what happens. But that's it. I'm very excited to play this. I think the quality of this book is fantastic. I think the art is fantastic. I've made several characters using the book, and I've had a blast doing it, so I think that part's fantastic. So, and I'm very excited to be able to finally play Warhammer Fantasy Role-Play and not Warhammer with the serial numbers filed off, because I'm using a different system because I didn't know anybody who wanted to play. But now I do, and we're going to go ahead and do that real soon. So not sure what the next video is going to be, but I'm definitely going to have one on the GM screen coming up soon, so we can take a look at what's in that. And hey, if you hung around this long, give me that like or dislike, whatever you want to do. And that's all I've got for this one. Thank you for watching. Good gaming and good luck.